It's been a rough week for the president and the Democratic Party, as we've been reporting. All-time lows for the president's approval ratings from the botched health care rollout. And as we reported, congressional Democrats up for re-election in 2014, now defecting from the White House. Joining us now with some insight into how this could shake up the halls of Congress and the White House is Fox News contributor Frank Luntz. Frank, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you. Thank you.
As the healthcare deadlines loom, the president's credibility is on the line right now. If we take a look at the latest approval numbers, we can see that he's taking a big hit. The White House is scrambling to find a way out of this mess. What impact is this having on people who are really worried about where we're headed with Obamacare?
There are two segments of the American population that are particularly concerned, and this is where the president and congressional Democrats are, quite frankly, now afraid. Independents, those that have not aligned with either the Republican or Democrats, they're the ones that are most hostile to Washington interference and most hostile to this health care plan. And they have begun to move from the Republicans, who they were mad at for shutting the government down. They've begun to move towards them now because they're even angrier at the Democrats over health care. And the other segment that you have to watch, particularly in an off-year election, are voters over age 65, because they vote in a disproportionate number in off-year elections. And they are the most opposed to the president's health care. So you've got these two essential groups that determine the majority in the off-year elections, and both of them have moved half a dozen points from the Democrats to the Republicans over the last month.
Very interesting. Well, the president this week, announced that he was implementing his own administrative fix to address the fact that millions of Americans are being dropped from their insurance plans on the individual market. Do you think that he's bought some time? And can he win back the confidence of the American people at this point if he can show that Obamacare can indeed go forward?
Well, you use that word confidence, and I want to focus on that, because right now what you've got across the political spectrum is the American people believing that Washington is making promises to them that it cannot keep. This is an issue of trust and credibility, and they feel that all institutions, regardless of whether it's politics or business, that all institutions who are supposed to keep this country together, that they're all failing because that they are making commitments that they cannot afford them, they cannot produce them. And the frustration with the American people over Obamacare is that they did not want it, they did not need it, they cannot afford it, they cannot get it. All these challenges have now really caused the country to say, enough is enough. I've not seen this anti-Washington perspective since Ross Perot in 1992. It's been 20 years since the American people have been this angry with Washington, D.C.
So it's certainly been quite polarizing. And, at the moment, we also have those nervous Democrats about the implications of defending an already unpopular law, as you pointed out, in the wake of the botched rollout, particularly in swing states where they have those voting districts in close races. What happens if the president sees more Democrats breaking ranks with him?
My expectation is that more Democrats will break ranks with them, because in the end they're trying to protect themselves. But in the end, if you voted for the legislation, you're going to be held accountable. And I want to make this point for viewers listening. The number one attribute that the American people want from Washington, D.C. right now is accountability. If you voted for it, despite your constituents opposed to it, you've got to take responsibility for that vote. If the system doesn't work, I do think that these people are going to be punished. And frankly, it's what the American people want. If you insist on something that is hostile to what a majority of Americans want, then you're going to have to suffer the consequences.
But also we've seen that if politicians or high-profile individuals actually apologize to the public and say that, they made a mistake, often the public will forgive them.
You're correct, and in fact, most often apologies work, but it has to be sincere. In the polling that we've done over the last 3-4 days in the focus groups and the one-on-ones, the public doesn't believe that Barack Obama is sincere in that apology. We've seen this from presidents. It's not saying I'm sorry that matters. It's actually fixing the problem. And frankly, for the president, saying I'm sorry without changing the law is not being sorry at all.
Very interesting. Frank Luntz, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.